All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we look at what Daniel Jeremiah is predicting in his final mock draft for the 49ers in round one. And of course, check out Pig and a Pickle, two locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera, third on the way in Petaluma. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Also, the Krug Show is presented by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Prize Picks is super simple. You just pick more or less on player stats or even game outcomes and build your lineup. It's available in most states, including California. So if you haven't checked it out yet, use code HMA when you play $5. You're going to get $50 in lineups instantly. And thanks to Prize Picks for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And also check out Habbas Law. I should say, if you that's Low Riders taking over Cinco de Mayo, join Habbas Law on Sunday, May 3rd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. East San Jose, King and Story, chrome gleaming, hydraulics bouncing. Habbas Law is having a great time starting at 10 a.m. at Cinco de Mayo Parade. Live music, incredible food, community alive with pride, presented by Omar Habbas, Tarek Habbas, and the Habbas Law team. So it should be really, really cool. We'll talk more about that in a bit. All right, let's talk a little bit about what Daniel Jeremiah is saying. He's one of the sharp guys from the NFL Network, and he had his final mock draft for the 49ers, and he had the Niners going with Denzel Boston, which a little bit of a surprise, I'd have to say. Denzel Boston, a little bit of a surprise for sure. We'll share the screen. Raj put this out. Daniel Jeremiah has the Niners selecting Denzel Boston in his final mock draft. And he says, I could see the Niners looking for D-line help here, coming off a year when they were plagued by injuries on the defensive front. In this scenario, though, they add more firepower for Brock Purdy. Denzel Boston comes highly recommended out of Washington's program. So there you go. Daniel Jeremiah says Denzel Boston. All right. Well, Boston's an interesting player. He's not one of my favorite players, but it's the one thing that's undeniable is he is a big red zone receiver. He's kind of a basketball player. He kind of posts up. Think Drake London. He's a lot like Drake London. He's got good ball skills. He's big. He scores lots of touchdowns. He's like kind of a post-up guy. He posts up down low, and he can high point the ball, and he can make some plays on the football, and he high points it, but there's not a lot mediocre speed, and here's the thing: guys who can run, guys who can jump, guys who can lift, and if you don't, we have to assume that you didn't do it for a reason. He didn't run his 40. And when you look at his film, there's just nothing but he's just glued to, to the defender. I mean, he doesn't get any separation. And this is at the college level. He has very impressive size and strength, 6'4", 210. He's from South Hill, Washington, went to Emerald Ridge High School. And has played for the UW Huskies, and he's, as I said, he'll go up in a crowd and come down with it. He's kind of like a 3 flies up champ. But it's like I really felt like when the anonymous scouting reports came out that Bob McGinn put out there, I thought it kind of described him perfectly. And the scout said he's an X receiver, which the Niners are looking for an X receiver. Okay, speed. He's really more of a 50-50, let me out rebound the guy, body position, basketball player type guy. So I think he's got some build-up speed, but I just didn't see any separation. One scout said he's got a little bit of Mike Evans in him, but he's just not as fast down the field. Well, then he's not quite Mike Evans. Mike Evans ran in the 4.4s. I think he was clocked at the combine low 4.5s. But somebody once said that he ran in the high 4.3s. Young Mike Evans at Texas A&M was fast and was a downfield threat. I think much faster than Boston and got much better separation. Third scout said talking about Boston, he's got a lot of talent. He's big and strong. He runs good routes, great hands, separates. He's physical. He's probably like Carnell Tate in the speed department, but I like him as a receiver better than Tate. So this scout liked him. He knows how to get open, set guys up, stop and start, good route runner. He doesn't have that extra gear, but he's really a good possession receiver. And see, that would be my argument of why the 49ers should not draft this guy, because he is a possession receiver. That's what I see. I think he's a really good possession receiver. I think he could be a really good red zone receiver. It really kind of depends on how you see the receiver position and what you're looking for. These guys all are grouped under wide receiver, but they're all quite a bit different. And I'll tell you what I mean in just a second here. But I just think look at the Niner depth chart. You got Mike Evans. Mike Evans basically is what you want this guy to be. So you got what, Mike Evans to coach this kid for a couple of years, and then you'd have, kind of, if you have Evans, this is kind of like a poor man's Evans. So maybe that's the plan, but I don't see Denzel Boston beating one-on-one coverage. Who's the dynamic receiver here beating one-on-one? Maybe Christian Kirk. Pearsall has the reputation of a man beater, but you got to be on the field. Watkins and Cowing have speed, but Cowing's definitely underpowered. And I don't think Demarcus Robinson, he's more of like actually, I like Demarcus Robinson against man coverage, but I like him more in the red zone. I don't think the Niners utilized him well last year at all, but they don't have that dynamic down the field separator. And that's what I think they really need. If you're going to go wide receiver in the first round after you just went with Ricky Pearsall 2 years ago, it better be for a true difference maker. Now, Boston is a difference maker as far as if you look at touchdowns. He had 11 this year. He had 9 last year. That's a lot of touchdowns. So, I'm not saying that Boston has no game. Don't get me wrong. He's got game. I just didn't see that separation. And when you're Brock Purdy, and you don't have that rifle of an arm, arm strength can create separation, and speed of your receiver and dynamic route running can create separation. I don't see that with Denzel Boston. If you watch his highlights, there's a lot of the defender is right there, just absolutely right there, standing right next to him. Who's better? You say, okay, do you have a better idea? Well, I'll tell you, I think there's a better way to play this. One, Chris Bell is coming off a knee surgery, and I think he's more of the player that they're looking for. Chris Bell's 6'2", about 230, great straight line speed, does separate. I'll show you. I'll share the screen. We can show you a little footage, but I just don't see the difference maker. What they really need is a difference maker, yard after catch, dynamic guy. You got to have somebody who's going to run those bang sixes across the middle or whatever. I mean, you got to have somebody who's going to run the in route. You had JJ, you ran that in route for Brock Purdy, and now you really don't have that player. So you need a big physical receiver that can run the in route and then get run after the catch, big dynamic chunk plays against a Seahawk type defense, right? That's what you need. You need somebody who's not going to be intimidated by the defense. You need somebody who's big and physical and can run through the middle of the field. I mean, your receivers, part of Shanahan's offense is that his receivers own the middle of the field. Think about it. Kittle, JJ, Ayuk, Debo. They ran across the middle of the field like they freaking owned it. And they need that. They don't have that now. Now, here's Bell. I'm going to show you the highlights on Bell. He's 6'2", 220. Now, he's coming off an ACL. And I didn't like what I saw when I saw him on the treadmill. It didn't look quite the same. I think if you're the Niners, the way to play your hand on Chris Bell, gamble that he falls to the 4th round. You saw people see that. I'll see if I can get the film on the treadmill here, and you can see it. But here's Chris Bell. He's big. He'll take hits across the middle of the field. He's tough. And look at this. He's got this gear. He can run away. Now, that's a little bit more short range. This big guy, strong, gets off the line of scrimmage. Here he is running across the middle of the field. Shallow cross. That's a popular pattern for the Niners. They love their shallow cross. He can do that. He's strong. He's got strong hands. He can take hits. The only thing I don't love about Chris Bell is there's not tons of refinement in the route running short. But look at the dynamic ability to run away and that run after the catch ability. Now, the question is this. After the knee surgery, does he still have that ability? I I think, as I said, the way to play this is gamble, see if he's there in the fourth round. Chris Bell falls to the fourth round, then take him in the fourth round. I think for sure he's going to fall to the late third. So I'm not saying go with Chris Bell instead of Denzel Boston. But I'm just saying that I think Chris Bell is a little bit more along the lines of a complementary fit to their other receivers. The other guy that I would be looking for, also falling to the fourth round, and then you don't have to go receiver here, is Deion Burks. I mean, Deion Burks is a big-time player. I saw an interview where Daniel Jeremiah was touting Burks, not for the Niners necessarily, but just period. And I'm a big fan of Deion Burks. Now, he never had big-time production at Oklahoma, but look at the quarterbacks he played with. This guy played with the worst quarterbacks ever. And then he was at Purdue before that. And if you look at his Purdue film, the quarterbacks this guy played with at Purdue and at Oklahoma absolutely stunk. Look at that play. And this guy does get separation. This guy's like almost like a Tyreek Hill. He's so dynamic. Talking about 4.3 speed. He had 26 reps at 225. That's more reps of 225 than CJ West had last year. This guy's jacked. He's small. He's strong. He just played with a bunch of crappy quarterbacks, and he's dynamic. I mean, you got this guy, and now you might be able to run the ball because they're going to fear this guy burning them. He's unbelievably strong and fast. So I really like Deion Burks, and you can get Deion Burks in the third round, fourth round, maybe fifth round. And to me, it's like that's the way to play this. Hope Chris Bell falls to the fourth round if he does take him, and maybe take Deion Burks too. Deion Burks is explosive, and that's what they need. They need an explosive, moving guy who's not some soft guy who can't take hits. And they've had some of those guys too. They got to have somebody who can take a hit. This guy can take a hit. This guy's tougher, stronger, and he still is unbelievably explosive. So, I mean, not that I don't like Denzel Boston. I think Denzel Boston's got some good things, some really good traits. I mean, he could definitely score. If your view of the wide receiver world is that it's all about, some three flies up competition in the end zone, and the guy, the tallest receiver with the best ball skills is going to be, the best receiver in football, then go get Denzel Boston. But to me, I'm not taking any perimeter players that I don't have verifiable speed. I'm not taking a corner. I might take an offensive lineman where I don't care about his speed, or a quarterback. I don't care about his speed, but I'm not, the GPS thing. No, don't give me the GPS. If he was fast, he would have run. And it's like the fact that he didn't run, and then he doesn't have his film is just littered with reps where he doesn't get separation. And it's a really deep wide receiver class. I really don't like that idea of Denzel Boston. All right, let's jump into our Prize Picks lineup for today. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app, and the reason I like it, it's simple. You're just picking more or less on player stats or even game outcomes, building your lineup, and you're in. No complicated stuff, just what you think is going to happen in the game. Use code HMA, play $5, get $50 in lineups instantly. Link is in the description. All right, let's give out our lineup. We're going Joe Burrow under 3,874.5 passing yards. Derrick Henry under 1,274.5 rushing yards. We think injuries are coming. Matthew Stafford, less than 30.5 passing touchdowns. I think they're going to run the ball more. And Sam Darnold, less than 3,674.5 passing yards. Thanks to Prize Picks for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Here we go. This is PFSN has this stat out. The most explosive wide receivers in the 2026 NFL draft per PFSN's Draft HQ. And these are based on their metric, whatever. But I'm looking at this list. Go get as many guys as you can off this list. These guys can all run. This is the explosive list of receivers. The Niners' problem wasn't that they took Lance. It was they took the wrong Lance. They took Trey Lance. Bryce Lance is actually tall and fast. He's intriguing on day 3. Zachariah Branch from Georgia. The Georgia was foolish the way they used him. They used him on just hitches all the time. He's got explosive ability. 4.3 speed. He's strong. He's a big play guy. This guy's been a 5-star guy going back to Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. This guy's been a star since like junior high. Zachariah Branch in the NFL is going to be big time. Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State. I don't know that I've seen a faster guy on film. I mean, this guy is so electric. You have to give this guy's ability to run creates space by itself. Barryon Brown, LSU, another guy, incredible return guy who can run, separate, tons of speed. Chris Bell, lots of run after the catch. Jeff Caldwell, 6'5", 6'6". He ran 4.31. That's like that's like Calvin Johnson. Jeff Caldwell has like Megatron measurables. Deion Burks is on this list. And then there's some guys that are going to go early, right? Jordan Tyson's on the list. Casey Concepcion's on the list. Omar Cooper, Kendrick Law, I think is really an underrated receiver. This is the group to choose from. I think if you're the 49ers, don't go for the slowish possession receiver that you don't have a verifiable 40 for in round one. I think I'd go with Keelan Rutledge, from Georgia Tech, or go with an edge rusher. There's a whole, group of edge rushers there. But I think if you look at this between all these dynamic guys, and then there's, guys like kind of sleeper day 3 guys like Reggie Virgil, I think from Texas Tech, Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech. These are kind of like sleeper, day 3 wide receivers. Skylar Bell, Connecticut. There's a lot of interesting guys on that day 3 at wide receiver that, Manuel Henderson from Kansas, Ty Montgomery from John Carroll had an incredible Senior Bowl. I was talking to Mark Schleybaugh today from, he's a big time Georgia guy. He's been covering the Dogs for years. And I asked him about, all the different prospects on Georgia's roster. And when I brought up Dylan Bell, he's like, I love Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell to me is my sleeper day 3, maybe undrafted free agent 49er wide receiver. 6'1", 210, ran 4.50. Nothing incredible about that. But he had 39-inch vertical, and this kid is tough. And more importantly, he's smart as a whip. So you've got smart, tough, physical, played big in big games. Dylan Bell probably going to be there in the 7th round. And he can do a lot of great things for your offense. You probably can only add 1 or 2 receivers. I'd much rather add Dylan Bell and Reggie Virgil on day 3 than use the 1st round draft choice on Denzel Boston, who I don't know what kind of 40 he runs. Now, I will say this about Denzel Boston. I do think, he would help the Niners in the red zone. But, once again, who's the dynamic, guy who's going to beat man coverage? If you're going to go receiver early, man, there's just a whole lot better guys. I mean, as far as you say, well, if you're going to go receiver early, who do you like? Ted Hurst, Georgia State. I mean, that's a big swing. I do like Chris Bell, but as I said, because of the injury, I'd wait for him on day 2 or maybe even day 3. Jeremy Bernard from Alabama is a big play guy who's been doing it in the SEC for a couple of years. Really, really like him. Casey Concepcion is a dynamic after the catch guy and a punt returner, and he does separate. It's like, to me, if you're going to go with a guy, they're different players, right? Casey Concepcion doesn't have the ball skills of doesn't have nearly the ball skills of Denzel Boston. Boston's got better ball skills. If you could combine Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, you would do it and say, oh yeah, that's the ultimate receiver. But to me, when you look at Boston's inability to separate against college corners, it never gets easier against NFL corners. Every corner you go at in the NFL is the best corner that you faced in college repeatedly. And I just think that Boston's going to be covered up, and you're going to use a 1st round pick, and you're going to kind of force the ball to him because he is a 1st round pick. That's the other thing. It's like everybody knows, including Brock Purdy, that you made a sizable investment in this rookie receiver. So many of the rookie receivers struggle to come into the league. You're looking to take off this year and compete for a Super Bowl. In that world, to me, going rookie wide receiver period with any of the receivers is really really risky. To me, I would go in a different direction. Safety, guard, edge, linebacker, defensive tackle, offensive guard, I think is what they're going to do. If you made me guess, I'd say guard or safety, but I'm not the big Denzel Boston fan. And to me, that would be kind of frustrating if they went that direction. I like this list though. This is a list of explosive movers, and you look at that list of explosive, guys in college football. There's a lot of guys there that you might. I mean, like Kendrick Law is probably going to be a 5th-round pick. Burks is probably going to be a 4th-round pick. Caldwell is going to be a 5th-round pick. Bell, as I said, might go in the 4th. Barryon Brown might be there in the 7th. Brendan Thompson may be there in the 6th. Zachariah Branch, I think, is going to go early, but you never know. He had an arrest this weekend. It wasn't a big deal, but he did have an arrest in Athens, and maybe that impacts his situation. So it's not like you got to invest a 1st-round pick to get a number of these explosive wide receivers listed on this list. And since it is such a good day 3 draft, and they do need an explosive player, and I'm hugely, big fan of Deion Burks, I would say pass on Denzel Boston. Just my thought. But to me, you need special traits to get open in the NFL, especially against man coverage. And I don't see that special separating ability from Boston. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to the rest of our sponsors. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.